Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Normal America Show. We host robnoerr. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been since Friday since I saw y'all. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Getting ready for Thanksgiving here. I know I am. Working as always, but that's all right. What can you do? Gotta make some monies. So I had a great weekend with the family. We actually did my wife's father's Thanksgiving Saturday evening, so it went well. And then I came into work straight from there, so been working ever since, but got some time off here. Thought I would do a stream. I'm going to try to make sure I'm consistently hitting every Monday and Tuesday night, even if I have nothing to say. The beauty of me is, even when I have nothing to say, I have something to say, so, it's never that big of a deal. Oh, the wife's texting me. Uh-oh. Yes, that Argentina president election came out. How do you say his name? Let's see. See if I can look it up phonetically. Oh, this printer. Millet? Is that how you say it, right? Really sad news for Argentina. It's some of the best news I've seen because Millet. God, I love watching these lefties melt down. Oh my God, no! Just one election the globalists were unable to rig. Don't worry. They'll be doing everything they can to bring him down going forward. Don't worry. So we'll see how that goes. But prayers for the Argentinian people. Congratulations to them for electing someone who, cares about things like personal liberty. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, sad news for Argentina without an authoritarian government. Yeah, I hear you, Plassa. So, I'll be honest, I've been busy today. It's tough to do these. Oh, look at this. I accidentally hit talk to speech on my phone, and it's texting my wife everything I'm saying. So I'm up to talk whatever topics people want to talk about today. It's difficult when I work all day to follow what's going on. I still don't think Joe Biden's done anything good in his term so far. I wouldn't say that. I think pulling out of Afghanistan was a good idea. The way he did it was terrible. But the bad so far outweighs any potential good. I mean, I'm sure any president could do, theoretically, he's talked to, families that had tragedies and stuff like that. In what way has the Biden presidency been good? The three factors that I look at are foreign policy. Biden's foreign policy is an absolute disgusting mess. We're closer to World War III than we've been since the Cold War. We're a joke. Domestically, the economy's in the crapper, while he claims that it's the greatest economy ever. The border crisis is worse than it's ever been in my life. Probably ever been, period, in the history of the country. Fentanyl deaths are out of control. And the other thing is, scandals. Biden's scandals are way worse than anything. He did not get inflation down. Now, if everyone's remembering when we first started talking about inflation, I told you exactly how this would end. Way back at the beginning of Biden's presidency. Once we started to see, 10% year-over-year inflation, I said, here's what'll happen. Inflation is so high right now. And that's just if we use the BS numbers that they're giving, which those numbers are garbage. They're always revising the numbers months later. But if we just took them at face value at 10% year over year, I said inevitably what will happen is it's not sustainable to have this much year over year inflation. So let's say a gallon of milk cost $2 when Biden came into office. If it goes up to $3, that's a 50% increase in 1 year. And then the next year it goes up to $4. Well, now it's only a 33% increase. And they would say, look, we cut inflation by 17%, but you're still paying double the price of milk. That's exactly what's going on. They're still manipulating the numbers. And the reason, when people say inflation's going down, that doesn't mean prices are falling. They're not. You're still paying record prices for your groceries, for gas, electricity, and things like that. It's just that the increase is slowing down because the initial increase was so high. I called this out immediately, and now I see other commentators talking about it, but I told you right out of the gate that's what would happen. It would be the equivalent of this. If I was elected governor of Pennsylvania, I would say, we're putting a gas tax on here in Pennsylvania for this week. It's going to be a 10,000% increase, so your gasoline's going to cost $50 a gallon. And then I would do that for one day. And then I would remove that and drop the prices to what they were the day I came into office, and I'd say, I just had the largest decline in gas prices in history under my administration. I did it. Put ads out there. And of course it would work if I had a sycophantic media like Joe Biden does that could go out there going, yay, he did it. All the while Biden was talking about how great the economy is. And this is another thing I talked about. How do you feel if you're a Biden supporter, right? And you're struggling mightily, as most Americans are, particularly middle class and lower class Americans right now are struggling mightily. And how do you feel when you supported Joe Biden and you turn on your TV and you're going to listen to Biden give a speech about the economy and he's like, greatest economy ever. We're killing it. You confident help's on the way? How could you address a problem if you can't even see it? And that's why you see all these left-wing people. Cardi B's the latest one that came out. New York City's cutting all of these programs, funding for police, funding for schools, and things like that. Why? Because illegal immigrants need the money. Well, that's right, neighbor guy. So now you see these Democrats like, wait, what? Remember, they were all for the sanctuary city stuff. They were all for it. They were all for shaming people, calling you racist. If you were against massive government spending, saying that you wanted people to starve to death and stuff like that. Well, here's the fruits of their labor. Now they don't like it. I don't know what to tell you. And here's the truth. No one wants to talk about this, but this is the truth. There's no easy fix to this. Ron Paul ran on this, right? And when Ron Paul ran, he was honest. He said, listen, we're going to have to cut a ton of programs. We're going to have to cut entitlements. We're going to have to cut military expenditure. We have to. It's going to be a tough couple of years. That's the truth. Think about it in your life. If you go out one week, and you get paid, let's say you get a paycheck every week. You get $1,000 a week, right? And if you take that $1,000 and you go to the casino and you spend that $1,000, and then you get a cash advance loan for another $1,000 and you spend it, how do you get caught up? Well, eventually you have to spend less. If you spend more than you can afford today, then tomorrow you have to spend less. Seems true of the country. They wave their magic wand with the money printing and modern monetary theory and all of this, but how was I right? I debate all these people that are fantastic, well respected within the economy. I was right. Lockdowns, massive money printing, massive inflation. And I saw the other day, it tracks almost... Remember, it was when I debated a convoy, it was, oh no, it's the velocity of money. It's not the money printing and stuff like that. Here's the M2 money supply. Here's a chart of it with consumer price index. See that? Huh. Not that I'm a genius or anything. It just took someone calling the obvious out. How will white people have their interests represented when the nation is flooded with illegal immigrants, all with voting privileges? Well, it's not just white people. Listen, I have no problem with people defending their ethnic groups. That's fine. I don't have a problem with black people doing it. Don't have a problem with Asians. Don't have a problem with Jewish people. Don't have a problem with white people. And I certainly call out when I see anti-white bigotry, which is the most prolific form of institutional bigotry that we see in the Western world today. It's the only group that you could be openly racist to and not only not get excoriated, but be celebrated for it. That's the only racial group you could do that. But yeah, I mean, in general, people that are sitting, because this country certainly is more than white people. And you could say, well, that was a mistake of immigration, declining the amount of whatever. That could be true. But if you're someone my age and those sort of things that happened in the 60s were before you were born, 20 years before you were born, you happen to be a person of color, it's your country too. But yeah, that's been the plan. Everyone made fun of the Great Replacement Theory people. Now look, it's going to be a theme of today. The truth is that things don't go to the extreme that some people want, right? So like the idea of Great Replacement Theory, what does it mean to you? Does it mean you want a country only for white people? I totally disagree. I despise the white nationalists. I think it's ridiculous. And a lot of them, quite frankly, are racist. But in general, if by Great Replacement Theory you mean that there is a population people in this country and that the globalists want to import foreign populations that are compliant to entrench their power, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And Elon said this the other day, and it led to Media Matters and whatever attacking him, and now all these advertisers are pulling out of X. Now, I could go on Reddit and find racist posts, and I could go on Instagram, and I could go on Facebook, and I could go on TikTok. Any Apple pulling their ads from any of those? No, just Elon's platform. The one platform that's allowing people, to question COVID or the trans issues or the election. But really, it's about hate speech. That's what it's about. Rappaport won't vote for Trump, I assure you. He's just saying it to try to use his influence and people like him to use their influence to get Biden and the Democrats to do things more for Israel. That's what Rappaport's trying to do. Trust me, when push comes to shove, he ain't voting for Trump. The left are masterful at doing this. They're always, just one little thing. If you Republicans just did this one little... No, I despise Nikki Haley. I wouldn't vote for her if she was the nominee. Just one little thing. Just one little thing, and we would vote. And we would vote for the Republicans. Just one thing. And then they never do. But it's funny to see. They understand how terrible Biden is and the Democrats are. Elon Musk, he started to get, everyone said he was racist. It's so laughable, too. The tweet that he put, I'm not going to look it up, but the tweet was, someone put a tweet out that was basically saying what I've been saying since October 7th, which is you had all of these Jewish groups, prominent Jewish groups, that were funding universities that had no problem when anti-whiteness was festering on universities. You could take courses on anti-whiteness. And before people say, no, that's not true. Dude, I debated. I see these clips now. Did anybody see these clips? High school debate tournament, and these teams argued the other team should lose because they're white. Dude, I heard that 2-3 times a tournament when I debated. That was 2003 to 2008. Then when I was judging debates for 3 or 4 years after that. I mean, I judged debates until 2016. I started in the debate community, collegiate debate, in 2003. It was one of the most common arguments. You're white, you should lose. Now, the better teams could make it more nuanced than that, but that was basically... And if you or you're man, you should lose. Or men should be erased, or white people should be erased. It's very common argument. If you wanted to say, I think Hispanic people should be erased, I think women should be erased, you not only would you lose, they would probably kick you out of the tournament. But to say it about white people was just, yeah, imaginary. That's the point, right? So Elon said Jews, right? I'm so tired of this argument. I'm so tired of it. Thank you, Mick Linebacker. I'll say the left is okay with, and then someone will go, Actually, I know someone on the left that doesn't do that. You can't lump everyone together on the left. Yeah, fuck you. You know what I meant. What's up, Doug? How you doing, my friend? Long time haven't heard from you. Hope everything's going good, man. My friend Doug Dakota over there on YouTube, he's got a great channel you should check out. Haven't talked for quite a while. Hope everything's going great, man. Elon was clearly saying this. It's not all Jewish people, right? It's not even all Jewish groups. There are prolific Jewish groups like the ADL that have fostered anti-whiteness. They changed their definition of what racism means after the George Floyd stuff to say that it blah, 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 entrenches white supremacy. That was their definition of racism. I was looking the other day, I saw an article from the ADL that said the white supremacist focus on the mistreatments of whites in South Africa. Sort of analogous to what's happening on October 7th, the systemic mutilation and murder of white farmers in South Africa. The ADL said, no, if you focus on that, you're white supremacist. Okay, so if you focus on October 7th, are you a Jewish supremacist? Just curious. Oh, no, it's different when it's their preferred in-group. And that's the truth, right? Yeah, we're not doing JQ tonight. They do not control all of Western governments and media. They control Barack Obama. As always, what happens is there is some truth, right? Yes, there is a heavy influence of Israel lobbying in the United States. And there are a disproportionate amount of Jewish people that control companies that help craft our public narrative. That's true. But there's certainly a bunch of people that aren't Jewish that also control the narrative and things like that. It's more of a globalist perspective. But I'm not going to shy away to say that there has been undue influence from Israel on our foreign policy. Certainly true. No, I know Plissaw. The problem is people take this too far. Like, for example, when I debated JF Gary Epi and Sean Last, they were like, do you know all the lawyers and cops and judges involved in the Rittenhouse case were Jewish? So I was like, really? This prosecutor's like Bob Smith or something? That guy's Jewish? Well, not him. Well, this assistant one? Well, not her. This judge? Well, not him. You oversell it. That's the problem. You know, it's not that simple. But anyways, what Elon's saying was true. And the truth is, there are a lot of people, and it's not just Jewish people or Jewish groups. This is what cultural Marxism fosters. I likened it to third wave feminism and then trans activists, right? So let's take Jewish groups out of it for a second, right? Third wave feminists used the cultural Marxist oppressor versus oppressed. They said that women are oppressed and men are the oppressors. And because of that, the ends always justified the means. You could cancel people, people that were talking about men's right issues. You could browbeat. You could call people evil. You could keep them from speaking on public campus. You could even use violence and intimidation. It didn't matter. That's what the radical third wave feminists thought. You can do whatever you want because men are evil and they're oppressors and the patriarchy and blah, 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 blah. And then the trans activists came along and said, you're right. You're absolutely right. And those tactics are perfectly legitimate. And oh, by the way, biological men are women as well if they want to be. And they're even more oppressed. Trans women are more oppressed than actual women. And we demand access to all of your spaces that you're entitled to as a system. Because understand, victimhood is the highest form of currency to these leftists. So the trans people are even bigger victims. But that's the game. Everyone's playing, how is my group the biggest victim? But once you could claim that victimhood, the people that want to identify with that group in an activist type setting are going to say, yes, absolutely, let's play this cultural Marxist game. Absolutely. Cancel people that disagree with us, silence them, call them bigots, racists, whatever, if they dare question anything we say. And the third wave feminists were like, wait. So they were more than happy to utilize those strategies when they were the victim. But the problem is, with cultural Marxist and intersectionality. Intersectionality is basically, who cares what the bullshit people will try to tell you. What intersectionality is trying to categorize different groups, like your race, your gender, your sexual orientation, your age, your ability, your ethnicity, or, your religion, all of that stuff. And then saying it intersects. So I'm not just black and I'm not just a woman. I'm oppressed as a black woman. That's unique oppression. It's like, instead of adding black and woman, you multiply it. So that's like way more oppressed. And that's the game. Who could be more oppressed? The third wave feminists never saw the game being used against them. They were just like, oh, it's men versus women. And the trans people were like, no. Even bigger oppression is cis versus trans. That's even bigger oppression. And now third wave feminists are like, wait, what? Now they're called TERFs, trans excluded rights. Now, why do I bring that up? It's very similar to what you see with like the ADL. Groups like the ADL, more than happy to say, there are oppressors and there are oppressed. And as Jews, we're oppressed. And so, if you said something they didn't like, they'd say, you're an anti-Semite, you can't say that. What are you talking about? And I've defended people I extremely dislike, like Ilhan Omar. Is Ilhan Omar an anti-Semite? Probably, but I can't prove it. And when she said about AIPAC, it's all about the Benjamins, I thought she was making a point that I didn't see as proof of racism. To me, it was proof of, she said, AIPAC, the Israel lobby, has a lot of money and power in Washington. That's a true statement. And you can absolutely not be an anti-Semite, hate Jewish people, and say, I think this foreign government's lobbying is too much in my country. Something I happen to agree with. Totally agree with. Not an anti-Semite. In fact, half the people that watch my show call me a Zionist. No, that's absolutely right, Plissaw, to go back to that for a second. That's absolutely the truth. So much of the jump in the trans population is people, particularly white males, that found themselves constantly being bullied as oppressors, who had to be ashamed of their identity. If victimhood is the primary currency, white males got none of it. But now all of a sudden you're trans. Now you got the biggest victimhood currency. And I know trans people in real life that that's actually happened. So, Elon Musk says, calls out, and I've been calling that out too. It's not difficult. What's up, Bleezers? It's not difficult. Like, when Jordan Peterson told Ethan from H3H3, remember? When Ethan was like, oh, I'm pulling down all my podcasts of the interviews I had with Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson responded to him and was like, listen, someday the radical people that follow you, you'll run afoul of them, and nothing you say will be enough to appease them. That's exactly what happened. These people are willing to play this game when it benefits them. They can't see, they're not like me and you. I say, I don't want to play that game. I don't like cancel culture. I don't want to go after people. I don't assume everyone that dislikes me or my ideas or criticizes me is doing so because of my race or because of my gender or because, right? You could say, fuck you, I think you're an idiot. Your ideas are bad. That's fine. But I didn't make the rules. They did. And inevitably, as I said over and over, the rules will be used against you. It is the logical endpoint. I don't want to treat people like that because I'm a moral person. These people don't give a shit. The ADL doesn't give a shit. They don't care at all. They'll smear you and ruin your life. Don't give a shit at all if you criticize something that they think is important to them. But when it happens to their in-preference group, now Jewish people are bad and they're the oppressors. They're like, oh, wait. that still doesn't mean that I'm cool with people on college campuses putting up billboards that say, we're going to kill Jews, we're going to attack Jews. That's still heinous. And lately, if I could black pill you all a little here, this isn't really a black pill. For me it is, hopefully not for you. Am I the only person that's just like in all of these issues, Israel, Palestine, Trump, DeSantis, like I feel like I'm almost alone in the wilderness thinking all sides suck. They all suck. Am I the only one who feels that way? You could criticize Israel and say, I don't like what Israel's done in the past. I think Israel's reaction's over the line, without celebrating what happened October 7th or thinking Hamas is a good group. You could criticize what happened October 7th and correctly call out Hamas as a terrorist group without thinking, therefore, the United States is obligated to send troops and money and Israel should just bomb anyone. It doesn't matter if they kill any innocent person whatsoever, blah, 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 blah. It's similar to the Ukraine-Russia thing, right? Where, again, I found myself on an island. Fuck Russia. I don't like Russia. I don't like Putin. But I certainly know that Zelensky and Ukraine are corrupt. I don't want the United States involved. And yet it seemed like my choice was Jackson Hinkle on one side telling me, oh, Putin's the greatest guy ever, and, Russia's just the best, and they've never done anything wrong. And Dylan Burns on the other saying, Putin's the next Hitler, he's the worst dude ever, and Ukraine's never done anything wrong. It's like, yeah, you're both nuts. And that's why I won't get huge. That's why I'll never have a big audience, right? Most people, not you all, but most people are looking for someone that just hits the party drum over and over and over and over again. And then there's a small room for the enlightened centrist, which I'm not a centrist. I'm certainly right-winger and I'm a populist first. But that doesn't mean I can't look at situations and say, look, you don't have to be super to the most insane extreme length. Let me give you an example. January 6th tapes come out. I'm just going to ask my audience. I'm being honest. I'm not going to yell at anyone. Well, I might yell at someone, but none of you people. Anybody deserve to get arrested on January 6th? Was there anyone that day there that deserved to be arrested? Just a yes or no. Yeah, Antifa, says one guy. Ray Epps. Two things could be true simultaneously. Was January 6th massively blown out of proportion, set up to ensure that some sort of violence occurred as an agenda for the Democratic Party and the establishment Republicans to crack down on people, censor people, and treat people that are populists like enemies of the state? Yes. Absolutely true. On the other hand, was this just all peaceful and no one did anything wrong? No. Not at all. Ashley Babbitt's a good litmus test. I'm not going to go as far as John Burke. I don't think she deserved to die. I think there have been thousands of people that have done things similar to what Ashley Babbitt did. Pounded on doors and windows and things of that nature where VIPs were inside those doors, whether it be Congress people or wealthy people, blah, 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 blah. But also, I can understand how a person in the moment, if you're a security person or a law enforcement person, could think, my God, they're trying to break in here. I'm the last line of defense. Here's what, you want to hear my unfiltered take, and I've said this before, but I'll go for it in case you're new or if you forget. Here's what happened on January 6th. The Democrats and the establishment, including establishment Republicans, constantly set dominoes up, trying to get Trump to become what they wanted him to be, an authoritarian, and to try to get Trump supporters what they wanted them to be, violent terrorist. That was the narrative. That's what they kept going for. That's why you saw the Summer of Love with George Floyd and all of the riots. Constantly you saw these Democratic governors saying, we don't want the National Guard. You saw these Democratic mayors saying, we're not going to send the police. Because they wanted Trump to force the National Guard there so that the national narrative could be, here he is, Trump's declaring martial law, he's sending the military to streets of the United States. That's what was going on. If that didn't happen, what they wanted were Trump supporters to actually use violence to defend these communities, sort of like Kyle Rittenhouse. So they could say, see, it's the Trump supporters that are really violent, they're lunatics. They tried this with Kyle Rittenhouse. Unfortunately, it didn't work with them with Rittenhouse because there was video. But if there wasn't, Rittenhouse would be fucked. But that's what they were going to try. That's what they wanted. And they did this over and over and over and over and over. And that's why they liked Antifa and other groups that would go to Trump rallies or to go to Patriot Prayer rallies, whatever, and start shit. They like that. And what they're waiting for is the other side to do something stupid back. And here's the thing, right? Here's the part that's going to blow your mind. There are fucking stupid people on the other side. There are. There are dumb Trump supporters. There are Trump supporters that are LARPing that think, I'm like George Washington and the Minutemen and I'm going to take back this gun. It's true. And by the way, they're using the same playbook right now. When they send Trump to jail, that's the other thing that they're trying to do. They're sending a signal, but they're hoping that someone will have a reaction. That's what they want. And so they know if we keep setting the dominoes up, eventually they'll fall. It amazes me it took so long. Then January 6th occurs. Why didn't Pelosi and company want more security there? Why did they have a film crew there? Here's the truth about impassioned crowds. It only takes a small handful of people to turn it violent. That's the truth. It is amazing how disciplined right-wingers usually are. Name me the violent right-wing political riots. I could name two. January 6th in Charlottesville. Now, even Charlottesville is different because that was more alt-right. And Charlottesville, I went through this piece by piece by piece when Charlottesville happened, when I was on the website Above Top Secret. If you look at the footage from that day, Black Lives Matter and Antifa showed up to have a fight with shitheads on the alt-right. That's what happened. Both sides shitheads. Both sides came with weapons and stuff to start some shit. It was like some West Side Story stupidity. That's what was going on. And you could look at the micro attacks. You could see it. And the police, there were like, even like, shit, what's the group? The alleged free speech group that's garbage. ACLU. I was reading articles from them that was like, it was incredibly weird that the police intentionally funneled the crowds together. Right. That was the point. Shitheads on both sides, but when violence kicked off, and some shithead did kill a woman, I'm not saying that was a plant or anything like that. That happened. But they knew something terrible would happen, and then they would say, aha, point the finger. That's exactly what January 6th was as well. Except here, it looks like there actually were confidential human sources, feds, etc., that were starting this shit. So, for example, we could see Jack Posobiec and them head up. I'd seen this footage before, but now there's even more footage of it. In front of the Capitol, at one point, the people are standing there, and they're agitated, but they're not engaged in violence, and all of a sudden, police just start shooting tear gas into them. So when you have the police escalating the situation, and certain people within the mob that are telling people to attack, some of which may have been shithead Trump supporters, some of which might be FBI, police, confidential human sources. That's what happened. You remember the other day when we had the November 17th insurrection and the November, I forget what day it was, when you had the pro-Palestinian protesters trying to break into the DNC and they had to shelter in place several Congress people. Remember that? If the FBI would have had confidential human sources that started to smash the police and the doors to break in, remove the gates, remove windows or something so they could break in, and the police would have intentionally escalated the situation, it could have been very similar. And the other thing is, what happened was, the police escalated the situation and then pulled back. Now, there's two explanations for why this might be the case. One, they pulled back because they thought we're overwhelmed. And if we try to fight, we'll lose. So the better thing to do might be to pull back and just try to manage it in a peaceful way. Or second, it could have been because they wanted the photo op of people going into the Capitol. And so what you had was, even if it was started, let's assume Ray Epps was a Fed, and he instructed people and they started it. Does that mean that they're not guilty if you started attacking police and shit? No, you're still guilty. But it's understandable human nature that some shithead would do something like that if feds were provoking it. And they could do that over and over again if they wanted. But they just targeted the one group that they wanted to treat like domestic terrorists. Similar to the kidnapping of, what's her name? The Michigan governor. Whitmer. Do you think if they tried to have a kidnapping plot of, say, Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis and the feds infiltrated radical lefties, that they'd be able to get some people to take the bait? Of course! But they ain't going to do that. That doesn't help their narrative. Oh, there was a kidnapping. Imagine that. Let's say DeSantis would win the primary. Then 3 months before the election, oh, a kidnapping plant from radical lefties trying to kidnap DeSantis? How do you think that would go? You think the FBI, that's something that they're interested in? And by the way, the same is true after 9/11 of certain Muslim groups. They entrapped these people. They found people that they could exploit. Every group has those people. It's just the FBI decides to treat one like terrorists. It's hard to separate out. Well, Rob, if that's the case, if FBI agents started this or whatever, or the police engaged in violence first, then that means the people that fought the police shouldn't be arrested. No, probably not. They probably still should. If the police shot you with tear gas and you're trying to escape and they're hitting you and you're fighting back, you shouldn't be arrested. If the police shoot tear gas at you and you charge the police and start swinging, sorry. Those that engaged in violence with the police in a non-strictly self-defense manner should be charged with fighting with the police. Those that peacefully walked around in the Capitol should be charged with a minor trespassing fine, such as the pink pussy hat protesters in the Kavanaugh hearing. That's what I said from day one. Does that mean that there weren't people, that there wasn't a riot? No, there was a riot. I talked about this on January 6th. So the people that today are saying, well, from the footage we could see, there was no violence. That's bullshit. There was violence. There is a propensity to want to exaggerate because that's exactly what the left and the establishment has done. Well, it was an insurrection. It was the worst thing since Pearl Harbor. All bullshit. And all way more harmful than saying, no, there was no violence. But I'm still interested in telling the truth. Because for me, the people that matter are the people, the average person, the normie, that just saw the little bit of footage that the January 6th committee released, and were like, oh shit, insurrection. And if you start lying to them and saying, no, there was no violence, they're going to be like, dude, I saw some. I saw it. So you should maintain your credibility and say, look, of course there was. Adam Kissinger's putting, did you see this footage? Oh, yeah, how about this footage? And more of the January 6th committee footage. Right. I could show you dozens of left-wing protests that look very similar. Fighting with police, trying May 30th, 31st, 2020. Where they're using Molotov cocktails to break into the White House. Where was Adam Kissinger? Strange. One second here. I'll show you the video I did January 6th. I told exactly what was going to happen. Exactly. The day of January 6th, I called it out. And I know I've played this before, but again, if you're new to the channel, so, of course, I had to take this down off of YouTube. Because, yay. But here you can find it on Odyssey. Yeah, did you know that? I have an Odyssey channel to back all my stuff up. See that date there? January 6th, 2021. 14 views, probably all me. Let's hear what I had to say. Look at that hair. Be nice if I had the volume on, huh? Not just for COVID reasons, but just in general. Sorry about that. So, Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on initial reports that, and I've seen some video that strongly suggests this is the case, that some of the people at the Trump rally are trying to storm Capitol Hill. Now, look, as of everything, I'm not going to be a hypocrite about this, but as of everything, we should wait for proper context as to what's going on. We're only seeing snippets of videos to see what's going on. But certainly if this was a left-wing rally, I would be out there commenting, even though I'm open to more evidence, but I would be out there commenting on why this was bad if it was the left. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I'm going to make the same, not a jump to conclusion, but the same initial take, and then I'll wait to see if more evidence comes forth. So there's several things to say. One, I am unambiguously condemn any sort of political violence if it occurs on the right or the left. I condemn the people that are trying to physically get through the police to get to Capitol Hill. I am saying this with the full knowledge that this will reduce the amount of people that watch my channel. That as a Trump supporter, for me to condemn this sort of things, as someone who thinks the election was stolen, that people think that I'm giving up, and that this somehow means that I don't care that the election was stolen and all this stuff, that couldn't be further from the truth. And remind you, I think the election was stolen before the election because we allowed propagandists to infiltrate the mainstream media, academia, corporate America, the tech companies, etc. And their ability to propagandize will mean that they never have to steal another ballot. So I understand that there are a lot of people watching right now that'll be pissed. How dare I condemn these patriots? If these patriots are using violence to trying to storm Capitol Hill and get through police, they are wrong. And they should face legal consequences for doing that. I cannot be clearer in saying that. If that upsets you as a Trump supporter, I'm sorry. I've gone through why I think that this political violence is immoral and unjustified and also unstrategic. This sort of image is exactly what the left wanted. It's exactly what the establishment wants. Because now they know that, think of the radical nature of the things that they're about to do and the things that they have done. If the police attack them first still, I don't know. We'll have to see what the full context is. But it looked to me like they were trying to storm Capitol Hill, which is a no-no anyways. But we'll see what the context is. But we should be honest. If this was on the left, many Trump supporters wouldn't be saying, well, let's look at the full video and see if the police attack them first. It is the right thing to do, and we'll see what the full context is coming out. But again, in general, just my initial take on it, without getting more evidence, political violence is wrong. I'm going to lose you just for a second here. I talk about this all the time. The way we win this is a battle of information. We need to wake up the great masses. There are the populists, regardless if you lean left-wing or right-wing, that care about the people of this country. And then there's the establishment, regardless if they claim to be Republican or Democrat, that don't give a shit about the people of this country. And they want us divided. But the vast majority of people are somewhere in the center. We need to wake those people up to our side. The establishment will now use as propaganda. Oh, look, those populists that claim to be reasonable, look, they're unhinged lunatics. It wasn't as bad. And I just want to make clear in general, right, what's going on, what my take is on the idea of political violence. I'm about to lose you for a second, and then I'll be right back. So I'll be gone for like 30 seconds. Yay, Pennsylvania internet reception. Now, let me now go to arguments that I think my supporters will like more. We have to have a sense of proportionality. Even what we saw in this video, is it anywhere close to the damage, violence, devastation we saw from Black Lives Matter, from Antifa, from leftists? Are they beating people because they're wearing hats supporting Joe Biden? Are they lighting buildings on fire? Are they looting businesses? Are they doing that sort of stuff? No, they're not doing any of that. But I just wanted to make it clear at front that I'm not being hypocritical, that anyone that's engaged in political violence should be held accountable. Again, I'm open to seeing what the circumstance around this was, but I should also be open to seeing what the circumstance around was when Antifa riots against the cops and fights the cops. They say all the time, well, that's because the cops punched them first. That's because the cops sucker punched them. That's because the cops tear sprayed them first and things like that. So I'm just trying to apply even standards here. That's all I'm doing. But certainly, this is only a small sliver of what we've seen occur from the left the entire time. So that's what I wanted to make this video about. I have predicted over and over again, if you make excuses Not just average people on the left that I talk to, like my friends and the people I debate. That's not the people that are important. It's the people that run the show for the left. The people in the mainstream media, the people in academia, the people in the tech companies, the people in the Democratic Party that have ignored or made excuses for the violence. How many times when we've talked about Black Lives Matter violence have you heard people on the left, people in power, say things like this? Well, it was only 6%. The vast majority of Black Lives Matter rallies were peaceful. Okay, the vast majority of Trump rallies were peaceful. So I don't want to hear one person who made those arguments on the left say a goddamn thing. I don't want to hear it. This was predictable. We knew this is what would happen. When you start to make excuses for why political violence is necessary, and it gets your voice heard, and it's understandable, and it's acceptable, and how focusing on the riots is a bad thing because it's majoritarily peaceful, you knew damn well that the other side would eventually do the same shit. You knew it. And that's what most of these people secretly wanted. That's what these people on the left that I debate want. That's why they're going to these rallies right now, arming themselves, saying we're defending ourselves from violence, because they are hypocritical pieces of shit. And they'll lie and say, oh no, I was against the violence on the left. I was against it. When I was saying Antifa was just an ideology. When I was saying the majority of Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful. I was against the violence. They're lying. This is what the intended plan was all along, which is another reason to resist the urge to want to engage in the very tactics that the left engages in. Because they control the narrative, when you engage in those tactics, they will then use that to crack down on you. So the answer is winning the culture war and the information war. If you jump into and I know what you're saying, and I agree with you, in the interest of fairness, if it's okay for the left to burn down buildings for their cause, why isn't it okay for the right? Yes, that would be the anti-hypocritical position to take. I say that all of it's wrong, and I'm trying to illustrate how you don't want to fall into the trap that they're setting. Because that vast group of people in the middle that we need are going to just be like, probably what they'll say is, all sides are nuts in this. I don't give a shit. I just give up. Whatever. The government will lock me down. The government will take all my shit. There's no sensible person out there. That's what they'll be saying. I kind of started to sympathize with these people on the right or Trump supporters and stuff that were pointing out the insanity of the left. I was sympathizing with the fact that we literally had leaders in this country that were bending over backwards to excuse the fact that we had riots that went on since George for 6 months or longer. I was warming up to that side, like, yeah, this is crazy shit. But now I see that it's all bullshit. They're willing to go out and do the same. I'm not saying this is the same. Hear me out. I'm not saying that. But that's how it's going to be spun, and that's how people that aren't looking at this situation as much as us are going to interpret it. But the real point I want to make is, when I had all my friends, if you're watching right now, you know that if you're one of them, my friends in real life that said I was a lunatic when I said that Trump should use the National Guard to stop the riots because these Democratic mayors were intentionally allowing the riots to occur and refusing the National Guard. When they said, oh, Rob, oh my God, you're an animal. What are you doing? I said, what the hell do you think I'm doing? Because if you don't, then the other side is going to start engaging in the same behavior as well. Then we're going to have anarchy and people beating the shit out of each other on the streets and killing each other on the streets. Is that what you want? Now, how hard was it to see that this was going to happen? Now listen, there's a difference. The people that control the left, and not just the left, it's not a left-right thing. Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, they're all in this shit too. But the people that control the establishment, this is what they wanted. They do that. This is their strategy all the time. They do some heinous action and then goad the other side into doing the very actions they're taking. They issued a quid pro quo to stop an investigation into the Obama-Biden administration allies. Then they impeach Trump for allegedly issuing a quid pro quo. They illegally investigate Trump. Then they accuse Trump of being a criminal if he wants to investigate the other side. They engage in riots and slander and racism. Then when the other side engages in things that are interpreted that way, they condemn them. That's the plan. That's what they do. Oop. Sorry, I lost you there. That's what they do over and over again. But those people in positions of leadership are different than the people I talk to that are on the left that I know in real life and things like that. Many of those people aren't involved in leadership of the Democratic Party or the establishment or the Republican Party.
Those people legitimately were brainwashed into thinking that it was somehow acceptable to have political violence on the left because their voice needed to be heard because white privilege and Black Lives Matter and bullshit like that I also fight against regularly. And I said, don't you understand what you're doing? You do understand how you're going to radicalize the other side. You get that, right? We know you don't give a shit because you're brainwashed or you're a hypocrite or something. You don't care when your side is committing violence because you say, oh, I'm not going to be targeted by my side's violence, so I don't care. I'm not personally at risk. I'm not the shop owner that lost my shop. I'm not David Dorn that was executed. I'm not the 5 police officers in Dallas that a Black Lives Matter person murdered. So I don't give a shit. I'm on their side. Let them go out and engage in violence. I said, you do understand, though, that this will set the precedent that the other side will then engage in violence, and now you and your loved ones will be targeted. You get that, right? Not to mention Antifa and Black Lives Matter will also target you if they feel that you go off the reservation. You get that, right? You understand it. Oh, no, that would never happen. So let me call out someone specifically like Dylan Burns, who's out there nobly fighting against these invaders, these far right-wing invaders, because he lives in D.C. Now, he didn't do shit when the noble left-wing invaders came to D.C. and were burning down St. John's Church and other shit like that. He didn't care about that. Surprisingly quiet when it came to that stuff. Isn't that odd? Surprisingly quiet. But now he's out there. I told people like Dylan, I said, if you're unwilling to condemn this stuff, when it's used against you, you'll cry. He couldn't believe. Can you believe that the Proud Boys ripped up a Black Lives Matter sign? Ooh, that agitated him so much. Didn't have much to say at the businesses being burnt down by Black Lives Matter. Didn't have much to say about the statues being destroyed. Didn't have much to say about all the looting. Didn't care about that. But as soon as he perceived someone as his political ally having their personal property destroyed, all of a sudden that was a big deal. My God, that's horrible. It's not just Dylan. The same is true of left-wing person after left-wing person. The reason I bring up Dylan is because I actually respect him as someone who I think's arguing in good faith. But he couldn't predictably see what his silence or his accepting. Now he's going to go back and rewrite history and go, oh, actually, I did condemn this violence. And it's not just condemning the violence, because that's different. The important part is people in positions of leadership and what did they do. Remember when Jerry Nadler was asked about left-wing violence in Antifa? He said, that's a myth. Remember when we were told that it's just an ideology? Remember when excuse after excuse after excuse was given to justify, oh, it's only a small portion of these Black Lives Matter rallies? Then you don't get to say shit when the other side riots. Again, even if we theoretically a full-blown riot breaks out in D.C. tonight, how many Trump rallies have there been? And so this is one riot? So the vast majority of Trump rallies have been peaceful, right? So do you think people on the left will go, fair enough, we're not going to mention this riot at all. Why would we just focus on this riot? The vast majority of Trump rallies are peaceful. Do you think that's what they're going to say? Do you think that's what Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are going to say? Of course not. All right, I'm here to get my Walmart order, so bear with me for a moment. In fact, I'll just end it here. I might come on and do another video on the drive home. But understand what I'm saying. I condemn political violence. We can see what the circumstances are behind why it appears these people were rushing the police if the police attacked them first. But if we're going to do that, which I agree we should also give Black Lives Matter the benefit of that doubt as well. When we see them fighting with police, we should say, well, what's the greater context? Were there videos out there that showed the police started it? I had initial takes with Black Lives Matter and the riots that I saw with them and Antifa. And so I'm going to have that same initial take here when it comes to someone that's perceived on my political side. And even if it's not as it seems, I want to be clear that I condemn this political violence because it's immoral, or I condemn political violence even if this wouldn't fit into that definition, which it seems to me that it does at this point. But I condemn political violence because it's immoral and it's unstrategic. And I'm trying, and I've spent 2 years on my show pushing back against radicals on my side that said, the left engages in violence, why can't we? I continually and will continually push back against that. But the greater reason that I'm making this video is to say to all my friends on the left, to everyone on the left that made any excuse for any of the violence we saw on the left, shut your fucking mouth. You don't get to say a word. Shut up. And I'm going to have friends in real life that aren't going to like when I talk to them, because they're going to say, geez, Rob, my God, did you see this violence? Shut your mouth! You endorsed Black Lives Matter that had violence occur in over 200 cities. You endorsed it. You said focusing on the riots was bad because the majority of it was peaceful. So shut up! You don't get to say a damn word. You're getting the civil war you wanted, you stupid shit. People like me that have integrity will continue to speak out against it. But you, shut your mouth. You disgust me. But I'll still protect you. I'll defend you. I don't want to see you fall victim to the very violence that you cheered for or ignored. That's it. That's all I have to say. No, I know I'm passionate about it because I'm very passionate about I don't want to see people get hurt. Amen and women. Yeah, you're right. Thanks. So, now, having said that, I have a kid coming Friday. It's the most exciting time of my life, and I'm very happy, but it's nice to vent. I hope if you're in D.C. and you're watching this, please, 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 God, I don't care if you're on the left or the right, please stay safe. Please, please stay safe. I don't want the people that are there cheering for Trump, I don't want the people that are there cheering against Trump to have to go through any violence. I don't. Please stay safe. Make your message in a peaceful way. There are other things we could do to fight back, please. So, all right, thanks so much, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. I might do a video on the way back. Probably be calmer, but thank you so much. As always, have a good one.
Now, I got a little distracted there early on in it, but I said, wait until you see how they use this. This is what they wanted. This is what the establishment wanted. I called out the violence. Show me a left-winger that was calling out the violence before that. That was like 1 p.m. That was probably 2:30 p.m. January 6th. January 6th was the due date of Hank. So it was a crazy day. And then we decided we were going to go to the hospital January 9th. But we knew at any given moment we could end up in the hospital. So I was, as you can see, a little disheveled. We're a little on pins and needles. And I was going to Walmart to get a pickup order. And right before I went, I'm looking at my phone and I'm seeing these videos of January 6th clashing with police. I was probably one of the first commentators in the country to talk about January 6th. And I can't say I was spot on the specifics, like they'll use this to censor people, but I knew what was going to happen. They were going to use this as a cudgel to go after Trump supporters, to go after Trump. And that's exactly what happened. Also, did you hear me saying there about, like, when I was talking about how I'd been saying for years leading up to this, when we saw left-wing violence, that what would happen would be all of the tools that you see the radical left use that are unethical, like silencing people, doxing people, getting them fired from their jobs, not allowing them to speak on campuses, etc., etc., etc. The other side will eventually do it. And if violence is one of the tools that during the summer of Floyd we were told was acceptable, or we ignored it or said it was mostly peaceful, then clearly the other side would do it. So I was on panel after panel after panel. So much so that most of the dumb shit left-wingers that I debate, their audience are like, oh, Rob just talks about Black Lives Matter all the time. Because what I was trying to impart to these fucking idiots was, if you say that violence is acceptable, the other side will eventually do it. Maybe some of those people I were debating were Jewish. I don't know. They were all for it, for the Black Lives Matter. Now what? That's why I'm so... my consistency is probably one of the reasons that it's a little boring to listen to me. I think it was Nico was saying I'm a broken record. It's true, I am. I've been pretty damn consistent on almost all the major things that I talk about. That's why when I debated Pisco, or the last time I talked to Pisco, and he was like, are you saying that you want Trump to use illegal FISA warrants to spy on his opponents? I don't know Pisco a goddamn answer. Fuck him. Similarly, I don't know anyone. You need to condemn violence. Will you condemn January 6th? Fuck you. To all those lefties that I debated over and over and over again when violence was occurring on the left and they didn't have shit to say. Fuck them. I don't know them an answer. On my own, talking to my own audience, talking to people that I know in real life, sure, I'll condemn the violence. But I don't know those people anything. Nothing at all. So now we have the tapes coming out that are showing it is a far more
complicated story than what the January 6th committee said. It wasn't a fucking insurrection. I said from the get-go, there should be a January 6th committee, and that committee should seek to answer 2 questions. 1, what's going on with the pipe bomb? That is serious. Whether it be a Trump supporter, a confidential human source, a Fed plant, a lefty, I don't give a shit. That's serious. Period. End of story. That's different than clashing with police. That's an escalation beyond that. I don't like Joe Biden. I'm not a Mike Pence fan. I don't like AOC. I don't like Kamala Harris. I don't like over 80% of the people in the Capitol. The fact that someone may have targeted them with a pipe bomb is outrageous. That is an attack on our country. But I suspect there's more to that story than we're being told. Weird that the FBI doesn't have any leads on that, huh? So yes, let's have a committee to get to the bottom of that, right? Well, let's see. It seemed that the police knew right where the bomb was. There's cameras everywhere, but they can't get a good picture of him. The timer was set that it would have been impossible for it to go off. It would have been sitting on a park bench all day, but serendipitously, no one saw it until the exact moment that Kamala Harris would have been around. That's what it feels like, a Reichstag fire event. That law enforcement or something was tipped off or was in on it. And the other thing is, why wasn't there security there January 6th? Captain Stephen Sun talks a lot about it in his interview with Tucker Carlson, which I did a review of here. We forget all about that. It's just brushed aside. Other people said other things anyways. Moving on. The guy that was in charge of trying to get security there talks about how both before January 6th he was kept out of the loop, and then during January 6th he desperately tried to get more security and was stymied at every possible event. Not by Trump, but by people that were connected to the Sergeant-at-Arms under Nancy Pelosi. The reason January 6th got out of hand is because they intentionally didn't have security there. What would have happened the other day at the DNC if police would have let the doors open and let the Palestinian protesters rush in? What would have happened? And then decided to hit some of them, beat some of them, shoot some of them with pepper spray, and then other ones let in. What would have happened? That's what law enforcement did January 6th. Other thing to say, it's not a big celebration that finally Republicans that have been sitting on these tapes are finally releasing them. Great. How many people are in prison again? By the way, can anyone name me a prominent national politician that's came out defending January 6th prisoners post these tapes being released? I'm sure there's a couple. I could think of one that I saw posting. MTG probably did. That's not who I'm talking about, though.
Now, I have not been online as much. The only presidential candidate I've seen is Vivek. It's offensive that the government tried to suppress this footage. Get to the bottom of what actually happened on January 6th. We need accountability.
Just show these cops what they just did to you.
This is police firing into the crowd without warning.
I have given warnings about chemical munitions. I need the less than lethal team positioned above me to start deploying. Launch! Launch! Launch!
You're on the wrong side of history! Hey, walk up to the front of the fucking line. Come here. Show these cops what they just did to you.
You gotta turn around.
We need more fucking munitions. Let's go. Fucking shoot it. Go. Shoot. Shoot.
We're up here trying to get through the gate. Yep, they're deploying flashbangs on us.
Keep it coming, motherfucker! You okay? Come on! Come on!
Hey, put it down, douchebag! Put it down, douchebag!
They're shooting into their own people. We're supposed to be supporting Blue Lives Matter. We
I'll link
represent
it.
Blue Lives, and this is what they do to us.
Stingball deployed! Stingball deployed! Stingball deployed!
What's your ETA for I Street?
Hey, no one, closer in. Stingball! Stingball! Stingball!
8900, 23 up here. Here, 43 on the north side of I Street. Very large crowd coming down I Street. 51, I need you here, please. One more Stingball, put the back.
What do you got now? CS! Yes, CS, that's it. Keep going.
As one who was here and who has custody of these 44,000 hours of videos, I can attest there were acts of violence, there were acts of terrible violence that day. Even from what I had seen with my own eyes and through the media, I've seen acts of violence against police officers that I had not seen before. And it was brutal and it was ugly. And our officers on the line did what they needed to do at the time.
Chucking grenades at us.
If they'd never
throwing the concussion grenades. If they'd never used a pepper spray, this wouldn't have happened. It was a peaceful protest. I was standing within 15 feet of the line of officers. They started firing at us before anybody did anything to them. We were not rushing them. There was no advance on them. They just started throwing concussion grenades and pepper spray.
They've been tear gassing us.
I can't breathe! 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 I can't breathe!
See you, Andy. So I'll just send you the link to Vivek's tweet and then the video. Well, I guess it's Savik. Why was the footage held by Republicans for so long? Thank God 3 years later, after it was used to censor any criticism of the 2020 election, to get the foot in the door to censor us about things like COVID, to deploy the National Guard in D.C., to create the largest FBI task force with its mission of going after Trump supporters. But thank God they're releasing it now. The narrative's been set. That's why. We could show, there's 90,000 hours of footage. Let's say 89,000 of it shows peaceful people. All they need's that, what the January 6th committee put out. They'll just keep pointing to that. Look, here's violence. Yes, no shit. Of course, as I said, of course there were people that engaged poorly. But you could take those slices of any number of left-wing rallies. They burned down a police precinct. Oh no, that was Black Lives Matter. They used Molotov cocktails to burn down a guard station outside the White House. Oh no, that was radical lefties. If you just took that and you showed those clips and said, this is the left, this was the left that was in D.C., they're all insurrectionists. Everyone that protested in D.C. on May 30th are insurrectionists. And someone said, no, here was me, here was my footage. We weren't doing anything wrong, and the police shot tear gas at us. We weren't there. We weren't using Molotov cocktails. Too bad, insurrection. All right. What else do people want to talk about? I don't know how long I could stay here tonight. Let's see what's on. What have I been tweeting out? Let's see. Tomorrow I thought I would probably do a debate review. Does anyone have any suggestions? The double standards are just ludicrous at this point. But it's still worth pointing them out to show just how bad we're losing the narrative, or have lost the narrative. Trump says go be peaceful, and a judge in Colorado says, well, he incited an insurrection, but as president, we can't do anything about it, so he has to stay on the ballot. How's that inciting an insurrection? But if Chuck Schumer says, Brett Kavanaugh, you're going to pay the price, you're going to reap the whirlwind, and then there's an assassination attempt on Kavanaugh, does Schumer get blamed for inciting? I might do SJW verse testing. That might be what I do. I haven't seen it yet. In its entirety. So here we have Dan Goldman, was the lawyer hired to go after Trump for the first impeachment on Ukraine, and now he's a congressperson. He's going to talk about Trump's violent rhetoric. And what's unique about this, well, not unique, what's awesome about this clip is you won't find a clip that illustrates the double standard. 8-bit verse. Here we go. Here's the genius. 8-bit verse says, good, we'll wait here. He says, here's a question. Are you going to hold Trump accountable for anything? For example, if he did anything wrong, even if evidence is there, would you defend it because the evidence exists, which it does, then would take into account or actually hold it accountable? Well, I love the people that try to, like, come on and argue with me. Can you imagine debating this person? Can you imagine talking to them? That's a lot of word salad to say nothing, right? There's a lot of the accountability of being accountable is actually more accountable when accounting for the accountability of it. Great point, 8-bit verse. I said from the get-go, if Trump committed crimes, so be it. He should be charged with crimes. The problem is all of the crimes that he's being charged with are being employed as lawfare, saying, show me the person and then I'll find you the crime. For example, the accusation that he obstructed justice. We can see Hillary's team intentionally deleting subpoenaed evidence, which is a blatant form of obstruction of justice. We see the case with the Stormy Daniel case that he's being gone after, that it is beyond the statute of limitation. It is the exact same charge that Hillary Clinton's team provably did, which was lying about and not disclosing the funding as a campaign expenditure of the Steele dossier, which they were only given a fine and allowed to retroactively pay for. We could see with Paul Manafort that he was charged with the crime of failing to register as a foreign lobbyist. He committed that crime with the Podesta Group, which was the group founded by Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. They were allowed to retroactively file paperwork. Hunter Biden, who was working as a lobbyist for places in Ukraine, China, etc., who was communicating with his father, who was actually vice president at the time some of this stuff happened, was also yet to be charged with a FAR violation. So all of these things, and then this is what I said people would do. This is what they do, right? I said that I would gather that 80 to 90% of all prominent national level politicians or billionaires have probably engaged in some sort of crime. I would be perfectly fine with raiding all of their lawyers' homes tomorrow and investigating and trying them all for those crimes. What I'm not okay with is a law system that intentionally only goes after the people that they feel is a threat to them, and then when the same crimes are committed by people that they feel are in leagues with them, they choose to turn the other cheek and to turn a blind eye and not go after them. But then what happens is we'll get shitbird lefties like this person saying, but if Trump did it, we should hold him accountable. He needs to be held accountable. He needs to be accountable. And I guarantee if I debated this 8-bit person and I was like, okay, let's take one charge, obstruction of justice, let's see. Oh, the Mar-a-Lago case that he allegedly said to hide boxes of shit, which the FBI eventually got those boxes of shit, and that's apparently a serious crime that's worth investigating, going after Trump and going after Trump's associates and having this huge court case that's going to be occurring right and during the presidential election. If that's a big deal, why was Hillary Clinton's team allowed to delete subpoenaed evidence that was subpoenaed by Congress? If we went through it, eventually what this 8-bit person would say was this. This is what he'd say. He'd go, well, yeah, okay, I have no problem with that. I have no problem. I didn't really like Hillary anyways. I have no problem. Maybe they should have went after Hillary. I have no problem. Right, which raises the question, you're full of shit. You're only saying that because Hillary no longer matters. You hate Trump more than anything else, so you'll be willing to bury one of the dozens upon dozens upon dozens of prominent politicians on your side if it means taking Trump down as well. But the question would rise, okay, then if that's the problem, my target isn't Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or anything like that. It is the two-tiered system, particularly the DOJ and the FBI. So if you're saying that they should have charged Hillary, then you seriously have a problem that the FBI didn't, and you're suggesting that we criticize the FBI, right? No, that's not what this fuckhead or the a dozen people will do. Like every fucking NPC that I debate, exact same debate. I don't even need them here. I could do every one of these debates. I could argue their side better than them. I know exactly what they're going to say. Eshel, if you're talking about me, it's quite easy to debate someone who's such a joke like me then, right? Would you like to call in, Eshel? You could show me where my straw man is, and I'll give you equal amounts of time to speak as me as long as you're not breaking terms of service. And you could destroy me and point out all the straw men that I'm using, right? Should be simple enough. Or are you one of those people that, I'm on my lunch break, I don't have access to a telephone, I don't know how Discord works? When Chris goes on his lunch break, doesn't have Discord, the dog ate his internet. Of course. Yeah, that's what I thought. Again, the simplest example you could see of this, and I know that people think that this is sort of a stupid case, but the Jamaal Bowman pulling the firearm. How many of these people that are going, but wait a minute, if Trump did something wrong, shouldn't he be held accountable? How many of them are like, wow, what a crock of shit that Bowman got a slap on the wrist? Clearly pulled the firearm to delay an official proceeding. Clearly, the video shows. Undoubtable at this point. Fucking clear as day. And the Capitol Police and the FBI and the DOJ are just going to let him off the fucking hook. With a slap on the wrist. But then they'll demand, well, when it's a right-winger, shouldn't you... I demand that you tell me that you would hold Trump accountable. You would hold DeSantis accountable. They don't give a shit. Why are they hypocrites? What do you see when you see their hypocrisy? That they didn't give a shit about what they claim to, but they know you do. They know, me and you and all of us, listen, we don't want a two-tiered system. We don't want corrupt politicians. We don't want that. They don't give a shit. They're fine with it. They're absolutely fine with the two-tier. Absolutely fine. That's why when there's blatant double standards, they don't give a shit. They're never standing up saying, I demand accountability. The FBI literally illegally spied on the President of the United States, on Donald Trump. None of them give a shit. None of them. They don't give a fuck. At all. Most of them say it didn't happen. They don't even fucking know. And then when you show that it did, they're just like, oh, well, you know, whatever. Comey's not there now. Good enough. But then they demand of you. Because they know that you don't, and I don't like that. I don't like that double standard. I don't like corruption. So they go, well, what about Trump? Shouldn't you hold him accountable? They're not holding shit accountable. All they give a shit about is power. Why? Because you're awful. They think they're morally superior to you. So it's okay. They don't give a fuck that Bowman did exactly what they're locking people up for fucking 2 years for on January 6th, obstructing an official proceeding. Don't give a fuck. They don't care that May 30th, 31st, 2020, that there was a literal insurrection using Molotov cocktails, burning down guard stations to break into the White House to get Donald Trump out. They don't give a shit at all. At all. They don't give a fuck. Nah, I haven't read that Imaginarium. So when they come in my chat and they say, but are you going to hold Donald Trump? Wouldn't you hold him accountable? Fuck you. That's my answer to you. You show me proof that you've been holding this guy Ruminate that I've smacked around in debates I don't know how many times. 2 or 3. Thank you so much, Ranger, for the sub. He was like, oh my God, Rob, are you going to condemn Trump out there saying he'll go after political opponents? Oh boy, that'd be terrible if Trump hypothetically does what Biden is doing right now, right? That's different. Biden didn't announce. He didn't announce before he was in office that he would go after Trump. Okay, I'll condemn Trump doing this when you show me proof that you condemned Letitia James, who literally ran on, I'm going to take Trump down. Did you condemn that? Of course he didn't. Because he doesn't give a shit. It's right out of that book. Well, I don't know what other people's recommendation. My recommendation is to tell people, fuck you. I don't owe them answers. Ever. Fuck you. If you're okay with Biden's kids in cages, thank you, old gamer Mike, but you want me to condemn Trump's kids in cages, fuck you. If you're okay with left-wing violence, but you want me to condemn right-wing violence, fuck you. Thank you, Aftershock, for the sub. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I know who I am. I know what my integrity is. I know that I've called shit out on my side before the left did.
I had more legitimate criticisms of Trump. By the way, there's so many of these DeSantis people now. So many of them. And I don't begrudge them. Many of them have right, or absolutely right, when they're condemning the things that Donald Trump did. Whether it be COVID, whether it be massive spending. Thank you, Syrian, for the gifted sub. I did not throw any ball today. But where were they when it mattered? People could change their mind, that's fine. But I criticized Trump before it was popular. I criticized Trump when 90% of my audience were Trump supporters. And I lost a lot of people watching me because I was like, no, this COVID shit's stupid. The massive budget's stupid. The bombing Syria's stupid. Hype train. Wow, thank you guys. I'll take your money. I'm a greedy capitalist. You know, and it's just, you know, with the Trump DeSantis stuff, because I do this show with John Burke on Thursdays, Fridays. John Burke is I believe the term that one of them told me to use is over-Trumper. They're not never-Trumpers because they voted and supported Trump in the past, but now they will never vote for him again, which is fucking stupid. And I tell them that. It's stupid. I try to be polite about it. I try to pull my punches a little because I'm trying to convince them to vote for Trump if he wins the primary, which he at least has a 50% chance. I would say better than that. Yeah, it's like a real... But one of the things, where were these people when it was happening in real time? Yeah, I know John's not going to, that's fine. But I can still try my best to convince him and his audience. We'll see what happens after the primary. If you're a Trump supporter and you're not going to vote for DeSantis if he wins the primary, you're a fucking idiot. If you're a DeSantis supporter and you're not going to vote for Trump if he wins the primary, you also are a fucking idiot. I don't want to hear those people, either group, then complain if it's a close election and DeSantis or Trump lose, whoever wins the primary, loses the general. I don't want to hear them campaign in 2025, 2026. Oh my God, look at how bad the economy. Oh, look at the border crazy. Oh my God, the foreign policy is a disaster. Fuck you. That's what you wanted. I can understand not voting for a neocon like Nikki Haley. If you missed the spaces I did the other Friday, I unfortunately, so here's what happens. Because I work, my schedule now is, because I do home health care, I come in now Saturday afternoon, so I'm here Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I get to clock out while I'm here, but I have to stay at the house. Then, if I have other stuff I have to do for work, like paperwork and stuff like that, I have to do that in my days off. So then I have to drive. So Friday, what was going on was I couldn't stream because I had to drive for work, but I was still able to do the spaces on the phone. So we're talking about Rappaport, you know, and I had two people, we probably had 4 people call in on the space. 2 of them were pro-Palestine, which is fine. I think you could be pro-Palestine and not be pro-Hamas. I think that's possible, and not be an anti-Semite. These people were pro-Hamas, though. The first person didn't stick around long. The second person was there for a considerable amount of time. And it's unbelievable to listen. And it is amazing how similar the tactics of the radical left and the establishment in our country are to people that are making excuses like for Hamas. It's the same shit.
So this person, here's some of the... I'm not interested at this point in debating the history of Israel-Palestine. I think both sides have done shitty things. I am ignorant enough to know that I'm ignorant and that there's arguments on both sides. But I think, particularly the pro-Palestine side, should be happy with me because my stance is I don't give one more dollar to Israel, no troops, no weapons. Let them sort it out at this point, for reasons I've given many, many times. We can no longer trust the leadership of our military, our intelligence agencies, to operate benevolently. They are corrupt. So I will not support them sending our tax dollars, particularly when so many people in this country are struggling. I'm tired of asking the citizens of this country to make sacrifices, to be the world police, to sacrifice for COVID, to sacrifice for illegal immigration, etc., etc., etc. Tired of the shit. Right, Israel will take care of themselves. But you get this radical guy calls in. What I was interested in was he made this comment about, well, the people of Gaza don't want to move. Right, no shit. I didn't get a chance to say this. No shit. Right, of course. The reason they're suggesting is if Israel says, you got to get out of here because we're going to bomb the shit out of it, places like Egypt and Jordan were like, can't come here. Nope. Why not? Now we hear people, several politicians in Israel have said it. Others have said, well, the West has to take them. The United States has to take them. Europe has to take them. Bullshit. So this person says, no, actually they're great people. Actually, the people of Gaza are great people. You shouldn't be worried about them. They're all hardworking, blue-collar, peaceful people. Never committed an act of terrorism. Now, full disclosure, I do think the argument, well, they voted for Hamas, therefore they're all evil, is as stupid as saying, well, we voted for George Bush, therefore that's stupid. Maybe they didn't vote. Maybe the election was rigged. The election was, 2005 or something like that. Maybe they were pissed off when they voted and now they're not happy with it. Maybe they are happy with it. I don't know or give a shit. Still don't want civilians being killed if at all possible. There's a difference between collateral damage because people are intentionally terrorists are hiding with civilians versus running down people at a music festival and raping and murdering them. There's a fucking difference. We get that, right? Anywho, this person then saying, you can take them in your country, no big deal, then goes on to explain why October 7th was totally justified. He's not sure about the rapes, if that happened, but the law of self-defense says anything's on the table if you have an aggressor. And Israel's the aggressor, so they could do whatever. If that means targeting civilians and taking hostage, so be it. And I said, is that, in your estimation, how the average Palestinian feels? He says, yes. Get the little contradiction there? Anyway, you get that? Hey, we're great people. We're awesome. We're just hardworking. We're not radical. We're just normal blue-collar workers. Also, we think we could murder and rape civilians if we think it's self-defense. Anyways, leave us into your community. We'll be good neighbors. Right. Until my dog pisses on your lawn or something, you decide to murder my child. You know. But other than that, it's fucking insane. But that's what the victimhood mentality leads to. Oh, I didn't even play that Goldman clip. I'll get to that in a minute. And Jordan Peterson, who is kind of insane sometimes now, but who I was a big fan of, he perfectly articulates this on Bill Maher's show. Now again, I want to be clear. I don't know what Peterson's full stance on this is. I'm not shilling for Israel. You can absolutely criticize Israel. My stance is we shouldn't be giving them money and shit. I also think that Israel could go too far. But I do understand that they're in a position where their disproportionate response is the point. And I get it. I understand it. If it was my family that was murdered, you're fucking right, I'd be disproportionate. But that doesn't mean as an outsider that I have to be happy with it, or that I will say any criticism of it's racist. That's not what I'm saying. There's a difference between that and celebrating Hamas or celebrating what happened October 7th. That's fucking unforgivable and heinous. You can't justify those tactics. And now we see people like when Bin Laden had a point. Do you see where this goes? Do you see why I've been fighting against this radical shit? Can you see the writing on the wall? When I talk about how this reminds me of the Bolsheviks and the Soviet Union and the Gulag Archipelago, do you see what I'm talking? We have young people saying Bin Laden had a point on 9/11. Anyways, here's Jordan Peterson.
But what happens is that they are then saying that being oppressed is being good.
If the Holocaust.
Yeah, well, this is the main issue. I mean, part of the reason that you see all this foolishness on university campuses too is because people have bought this idiot meta-Marxism, which is that the way to look at every social relationship that people ever have is through the lens of power. And that is, we can put that squarely at the feet of the universities, as far as I'm concerned, is, marriage is a patriarchal institution, and business is nothing but oppression, and you have to view every single situation that emerged historically as oppressor versus oppressed. And then once you get that, which you can get in about 2 minutes if you sit in a course that teaches that sort of thing, you have a lens to moralize about the whole world through. And then you see the situation is that the leftists have already decided the Palestinians are the victims. And as you pointed out, if you're a victim, then you're morally righteous. And even more conveniently, if you stand for the victim, then you're morally righteous, regardless of what you do with your own life. And that's pretty much what university students are taught from the time they enter the university classroom. And that's how they, orient themselves morally. And that's at the hands of the radical left, too, Bill. And one of the things the Democrats also have to pay the price for, I would say, is their absolute refusal to draw a line between the moderate Democrats and the extremists. They're completely incapable of doing that. Like, I've talked to 40 senators and congressmen in the last 5 years. I asked them all the same question, including RFK. He wouldn't answer either. When does the left go too far? Well, we certainly bloody well saw it in the last month, didn't we? Because they got the oppressive narrative a little mucked up, we might say. And the consequences of that are going to unfold pretty brutally over the next few months.
He's absolutely right. And it's what I've been saying for years and years and years. That's it. It literally goes no further than this. Well, which side's the oppressor and which side's the oppressed? Palestinians are oppressed. Anything they do is justified then. Anything. That's it. It's that simple. That's the worldview. Does this mean that, like, Dave Smith, that's out there saying, like, look, Israel's oppressed, they've oppressed Palestine in the following ways? We could look at a historical look at this, and we think they're going too far, they're bombing things, and there's propaganda coming out of Israel? No, that's not what Dave Smith's doing there. I might agree or disagree with Dave Smith on the particulars of what he's talking about, but that's totally inbound. You could totally be a moral person and trying to sift through the things like that. That's not what we're talking about. I said this the day after October 7th. I tweeted it out. I said, if your stance is, I don't believe that Hamas did this. I believe this is propaganda from Israel. I don't believe that they went into a concert and targeted civilians point blank and took some I don't believe it. I can actually respect that that doesn't make you an immoral person. I think that there's evidence that that shit happened. But, okay. But if your argument is, sure, I believe that they targeted innocent civilians and took some hostage and mowed people down point blank, but it's okay because they're colonizers, you're a fucking monster. That's simple. Yeah, that's right, Aftershock. The Nashville shooter was considered a victim. Right. You think my internet freezes from time to time? Maybe. It doesn't say I'm dropping any frames. It was a slave revolt, nothing more. Let's say that's the case. By the way, again, I'm not conceding that. I have no love for Israel as a nation. mind the Jewish people. I don't mind Muslim people. I don't give a shit. But let's say that's true. That the Palestinians are open-air slavery, open-air prison. They're just slaves. And they revolted. Okay, even if that was the case, yeah, you still can't rape and murder innocent civilians. Yeah, I've seen people trying to now change and say, oh no, I never supported. Again, what matters was when they thought that Hamas did this, what was their stance? They were okay with it. Now, before I go, I did want to play this Goldman clip. I think it's worth listening to. What I was saying is, like, it's unbelievable. This clip is amazing, not because it shows their hypocrisy. You can find videos a dime a dozen. But watch how Goldman criticizes Trump's violent rhetoric. Remember, they're trying to tell you that Trump saying, go be peaceful, is a violent insurrection, right? And they criticize Trump's rhetoric all the time. But then watch what he says, right, when he says that. In almost the same sentence.
I want to also turn to Trump, of course, and just some of what the reporting has been around some of his conversations, also as we anticipate a year full of trials next year. I want to take a listen to part of a conversation that he had with ABC's Jonathan Karl about January 6th and get your thoughts on the other end.
You told them you were going to go up to the Capitol. Were you just...
I was going to, and the Secret Service said, you can't. And then by the time I would have, and then when I got back, I wanted to go back. I was thinking about going back during the problem to stop the problem, doing it myself. Secret Service didn't like that idea too much.
So what?
I could have done that, and you know what? I would have been very well received.
So there's been so much speculation, contemplation, discussion of what Trump wanted to do, what he knew or didn't know. I mean, do you think as a prosecutor...
By the way, what Trump said there actually makes sense. Like, Trump probably is the type of dude like, take me back! I'll speak in front of the crowd, I'll calm them down. And Secret Service is like, no! If there's actually people being violent, we don't want the president around it. Yep, makes sense.
From prosecutor, this is something that could be useful in the case against Trump. How will it be used?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, he says I would be well received because he knows that the people who were there are his supporters who he riled up and incited to invade and riot at the Capitol and try to disrupt the proper counting of the Electoral College votes. So every time he talks, he's putting himself into a bigger criminal hole. That's not his objective. His objective is purely political at this point. Politics.
They always accuse you of what they're doing. That's what the investigations are, purely political.
Don't work in a courtroom, as I think he's finding out in the New York Attorney General's case in New York, a civil case, and that's going to continue in his criminal trials. But his rhetoric is really getting dangerous, more and more dangerous. And we saw what happened on January 6th when he uses inflammatory rhetoric now, and his recent Truth Social post is incredibly scary for anyone that might be trying to work in government. And it is just unquestionable at this point that man cannot see public office again. He is not only unfit, he is destructive to our democracy, and he has to be eliminated.
Oh, his rhetoric's dangerous. It's so dangerous. He's not fit and blah, blah, blah. He has to be eliminated. Now, what happens if tomorrow there's an assassination attempt on Trump? Based on Goldman's own logic, shouldn't Goldman then find himself in front of a jury? Right? If there's an assassination attempt on Trump tomorrow, shouldn't Goldman find himself under arrest? He'll say, oh, when I say eliminated, I mean eliminated as a political candidate. Okay, fair enough. But when Trump's people say fight like hell, that was an incitement to violence? Do you see how the game is played? They don't, and listen, Goldman's not a dumb guy. He's not. They don't give a fuck. The blatant double standard is the point. It doesn't even cross their mind. Again, I go back to
what's her name? Stacey Abrams. Kind of overweight. I'm not one to make fun of people's weight. I'm a fatso myself, right? I only bring it up because COVID, one of the comorbidities was age and weight. Stacey Abrams, who's a little on the heavy side, old, like probably in her 40s, early 50s, I don't know. She's in front of a classroom of children, which are amongst the least susceptible to contract or spread COVID. She takes a photo. All the kids have the mask on that are at little risk. Her at a more moderate risk, no mask. Why? And I said, of course, they don't give a shit. They never believe their own bullshit. The rules don't apply to them. Right. But my question was, wait a minute. Why didn't like one of her people say, look, this is going to be like a PR nightmare. People are going to see this picture and be like, oh, Stacey Abrams isn't following the rules, but she made these kids, even though she's more susceptible. And the truth is, it doesn't even cross, they don't give a shit. They literally think that they're a different species of people than you. Well, I'm happy to be one of them, Wally. How can you sit there and ramble on for a minute? Oh, Trump's violent rhetoric. It's so violent, like he's got to watch his words. At this point, he's inciting people and blah, blah, blah. We need to eliminate him. You think for a second Goldman went backstage and was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. Of course not. They don't give a shit. That's the whole point. And it goes back to the 2 + 2 is 5 logic. If they can convince their supporters to ignore reality, then they'll accept anything they say. And that's the point. That's what's constantly being conditioned. There is no difference between biological men and women. Biological men, what do you mean there's a competitive advantage to biological men in sports? That's just not true. It's not true. And millions upon millions of people are like, yep, yep. Right after, I mean, for me, the best example, the one that I would have lost my shit, Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, shut down hair salons, was sending police out to arrest people that were violating the orders, then herself went to a hair salon. She's asked in front of a pool of supporters, did you go to a hair salon after you told other people you couldn't? She said, yeah, hygiene's important to me. I'm the face of the town. The arrogance. Let me show you this clip. My brother sent me this. Let's see if I can find it. I sent it my phone, but let's see if I can get it here on my YouTube. There are millions of people, these lefties, that think they're so much more morally superior. And Jordan Peterson was talking about this, right? He said, it's not just that the oppressors could do no wrong and they're always moral, but it's if you stand on their side, then you also, no matter what you do in your real life, you're moral and great. This sense of entitlement, it's permeating all through our fucking society. And it's all based on this oppressor versus oppressed. Yeah, it's not hypocrisy, it's hierarchy. Now, this isn't like a national political story, but I want you to watch this little story that my brother sent me just about a local political area in Chicago.
WGN investigates a small south suburb with big bills and leaders with expensive taste. Last night, we showed you how some residents and elected officials claim the local mayor retaliates against people who don't support her.
Well, tonight we look at a spending spree that's also causing questions and concern. Here again, investigative reporter Ben Bradley.
40 minutes south of Chicago, you'll find Dolton, Illinois. The median income is $24,000 a year. And yet the mayor collects more than 10 times that amount from various elected positions. And as we found, a paycheck isn't the only perk.
Median income, $24,000, right? Now we have elected officials that are making 10 times that, $240,000. $24,000 is brutally low, right? To live in a suburban or, an area outside the city, right? Now, John's seen this story. Now, what's important here is I want you to see this woman's sense of entitlement because she'll eventually answer some questions at the end. It is shameless. They don't give a fuck. They don't care. You can have them dead to rights. Bowman pulls the fire alarm, doesn't even try to go out the door. It doesn't fucking matter. Now he's trying to get out the door. Fuck you. Next. Let's keep going.
In South suburban Dolton, the economic challenges run deep.
We still have areas that need trees cut, streets paved, alleys paved, sidewalks fixed. It's a lot of that going on.
And a lot that's being spent, not on critical repairs, but on travel, meals, and more by many top village officials.
It's an issue. It's been an issue for some time.
We just look up and we're paying for stuff. And it just makes no sense. She's just doing what she wants to do.
None of them do the things that we do here. We the only ones making sure y'all streets get paid, find ways to fix what is broken.
She is Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
But then they running y'all, tell y'all this look fictitious story.
Would you like to just do it?
Is that true? She has a DJ at the council meetings? That's fucking hilarious.
Interview with me?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, let's go.
In addition to leading Dolton, she also serves as supervisor of Thornton Township. You make almost $300,000 between your two elected positions.
I do not. I don't know where you got that number from.
We got it from her own village and township records.
These are tax dollars.
So is the money being spent on village credit cards. WGN Investigates obtained copies of statements that reveal village officials have spent more than $24,000 at restaurants in just 1 year, including this Midlothian barbecue joint and a South Holland sub shop.
I've seen the same thing and more. You name it, they've done it.
Other questionable expenses include the streaming service Hulu, flights to Texas, Alabama, and Missouri, and hotel rooms in nearby suburbs, including Madison and Elk Grove Village, plus thousands of dollars spent at a hotel in downstate Pontiac.
My take is this. If they are going to something that's going to benefit the village, that's fine. But from my standpoint of view, these things don't benefit the village at all.
Now, you might think if you got caught doing something like this, your constituents are making $24,000 a year on average, and you're spending thousands of dollars of their tax dollars at a sub shop, at a barbecue joint. You think you'd be shamed. You'd resign in shame. Not these people. They're lefties. It's okay. They're better. They deserve it.
And then there are the trips to Las Vegas. Mayor Henyard and other top officials traveled to Sin City in May to attend a shopping center conference. It's unclear if it helped Dolton land any deals.
Don't have a clue. We're all in the dark. Not only are the residents in the dark, but the trustees are also in the dark as well.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Actually.
Do you see that arrogance? Do you see the smile? Do you see that? Look at her smile when he asked her.
For you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas?
What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Actually.
They don't give a shit. This is exactly, she doesn't hide it. And that's just it. She doesn't hide it. But that's the same mindset that all these lefties have. It's the same mindset. The rules don't. It's the same mindset that Gavin Newsom had when he went to the French Laundry. He's more politically savvy. But this is the end game. This is what they all really believe. I'm fucking better than you. Fuck off. Nah, I didn't do that. I didn't spend any of the money on myself. Really? We have proof you went to Vegas? Nah, no comment. Next.
Yes. The credit card records do shed some light on tax dollars spent at several restaurants near the Strip, including Cafe Hollywood and Hot and Juicy Crawfish.
All right. Any other questions?
So you're not going to answer how taxpayer dollars are being spent? That seems odd.
I just answered it. What do you mean? I just answered your questions.
You said you wouldn't answer about Las Vegas.
You asked me a question and I responded. So any other questions you may have?
They may have.
You see? Reality doesn't matter. He asks a question, she says no comment. He says, why won't you answer the question? She says, I did answer. That's the same, that's the pulling the fire alarm shit. That's Pisco. That's the same, we'll just deny reality. We'll just say the inverse of reality, it doesn't matter. We're better than you, we're moral. Yeah, I honestly, all the places they've ate at sound interesting. Do you see though? They don't give a shit. And this goes back to sort of postmodernism. That so many, the cultural Marxist shit that you see. They don't believe in truth. To them, everything's power. So if there's no truth, there's no lie. Nah, I never spent any of the money myself. Here's proof you did. Not commenting next. But why won't you answer the question? I did answer. I said no comment. And that's it. These are the same fucking types of people that you're trying to have a serious conversation with. Like, wait a minute, I don't think January 6th was an insurrection. Well, wait a minute, I think that the Bidens were corrupt and did that. They don't give a fuck. It's not as blatant on those topics, but when push comes to shove, this is how they'll act.
Signed up for a conference, but they never bring anything back, so we have no idea why they go to these trips.
Remember, we mentioned Henyard was also supervisor at Thornton Township. WGN Investigates obtained copies of that agency's credit card statements as well. They show township taxpayers also spent money on the Vegas trip on everything from steak dinners to hotels, and $3,741 just on Henyard's round-trip flight.
But I shouldn't have to sit up here and break all this down.
When trustees refused to pay a big block of bills this week, the mayor accused them of putting vital city services in jeopardy.
We need receipts to understand what's going on.
We couldn't help but notice the red hat perched in front of Mayor Henyard throughout the meeting. It's from the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, which, by the way, was apparently a stop on the Vegas trip. $303 billed to Thornton Township taxpayers.
We just feel lost, and we just want the powers that be to step in and say, hey, you know, something's got to give.
Is there anybody else? I just want to be clear. Anybody else after that? Is that it? That's it?
We sought specifics from Dolton and Thornton Township about these credit card charges, expenses, and how they benefited taxpayers, but received no clarity. Mayor Henyard invited us to come back to Dolton and the township to showcase upcoming turkey giveaways, senior programs, and plans for an ice rink. Proof, she says, that she lives up to her moniker, the People's Mayor. Ben Bradley, WGN.
It's the opposite of the truth. That's right, she's oppressed. A black woman, oppressed. You're clearly a bigoted racist if you're criticizing. That's the mentality. That's how, now, that's blatant. And I actually respect that woman more than the previous video, Dan Goldman. Because Dan Goldman will bullshit you. She's bullshitting you too, she's lying. But you can tell by that smile. That's the Shaggy, wasn't me. Right?
Remember that song? Caught me banging in the bathroom? Wasn't me. That's it. Yeah. Nope, fuck off. No, wasn't me. Next. She's at least in on the joke. Dan Goldman isn't. He's still trying. Oh my God, Trump's rhetoric's out of control. We can't have a national politician like this talking. People will take his rhetoric and they'll go out and do things. They'll listen to him and go out and do things. We need to eliminate him. Same fucking thing. Just without the smugness, like without the self-awareness. She's buying Bubba Gump hats on the city card. Is she weaponizing the local police to go after her political opponents? I guess they said the previous video. That's sort of what was going on. Don't underestimate people like Dan Goldman and the corrupt DNC and Democrats and what they're up to. McGizzy, right? Like, it was like this. When they're mass printing money, increasing the money supply, M2 money supply by 50%, you're talking to these people, you're like, what are you doing? This is going to cause inflation. No, it won't. No, it won't. Nope, printing the money won't cause inflation. Nope, it won't. Nope, won't do it. You see, it's this complicated equation over here. But it won't cause it. No, the lockdowns won't hurt us economically really that much. Nope, it's totally worth it. It'll work. And then when they get caught, sorry about that. Sorry. Anyway, we didn't do it. It's Randy Weirgarten, the head of the largest teachers union, fighting over and over to keep kids locked down from school. Now she's on Twitter going, we always wanted schools to be open. It's Democrats that said defund the police that are saying, we never said defund the police. They don't give a shit. It's the people. Yeah, I remember being involved in this debate once, like before the 2020 election. You know, there's the meme where the lefties, source please. Yeah, rape's bad. Source please. Mm-hmm. And in this debate, I mentioned the network news stations being so against Trump going into the 2020 election. No, that's not true. Source. Conservatives aren't being censored more on social media. Source, please. It's not true. It's not happening. Nope. There's a lot of anti-Semitism on college campuses. It's white rednecks. That's who's doing it. White rednecks from Alabama. No, we can see them marching. We literally see them. That doesn't look like white rednecks. It looks like a pretty diverse cast. Though there certainly are a lot of white people. They just happen to be affluent college students. Nope. A lot of anti-Asian hate going on right now. Yep, Trump supporters, rednecks. No, it doesn't look like that. Yeah, Wolf's Rain gets it. They enjoy lying to your face with a smirk because what are you going to do about it? There's never consequences. And there won't be. And this, I'll wrap it up. I'll talk about this briefly. The DeSantis supporters. Now, when I say DeSantis supporters, it's worth saying something here. When I say Trump supporters or DeSantis supporters, oftentimes I'm talking about the group that's very visible online on places like X and Twitter. I don't think that's the bulk of DeSantis supporters or Trump supporters, though. It's sort of people that are into it a little more, or it's influencers. Thank you, Levin, for gifting Ogre a sub. Even if he is insufferable. But so many of the online DeSantis supporters that I've seen, which again, I would vote for DeSantis today over Trump. We'll see come election day. I'm not ruling anything out. Right now, I think, and I don't give a shit, I'll argue till I'm fucking blue in the face about it if someone wants to debate me on this. Right now, the best presidential candidate, if I could literally say this is the guy that's running that should be in office, is Vivek. Or Vivek. Would he actually do what he's saying? I don't know. Yeah, see, Aftershock, you're just a half second behind. But if I had to pick between DeSantis and Trump, I would vote for DeSantis over Vivek just because in Pennsylvania, it literally, Vivek's not going to have a chance. And by that point, we'll know it'll be a 2-horse race. If Vivek was winning some states' primaries, absolutely I'd vote for him. Yeah, gift sub on Kick, I get more of the cash. I agree. I think that's true. So I'm not anti-DeSantis by any stretch. And Trump's been shittier to DeSantis than DeSantis has been to Trump. And Trump influencers have probably been shittier to DeSantis people than DeSantis people influencers have been to Trump people. But one of the things that I get from DeSantis supporters, who rightfully criticize all sorts of things Trump did, no problem with that, in their effort to demonize Trump, they lose sight of the actual most important thing, which is the corrupt 2-tier system, the actual corruption. So you'll see them like, oh, yeah, January 6th, a lot of bad shit happened. That's true. And it should be the number one topic for every candidate. The corruption. So many of them, Trump did all the shit he said he did. Maybe he did. Let's say you believe that. You're a DeSantis supporter. If you're not saying, but it's fucking outrageous that he's being targeted and all these lefties are allowed to get away with it and something needs to be done about the FBI. But no, they just, oh, Trump's evil and he's terrible and he's... Fuck off. Yeah, exactly, Lavin. You could be for DeSantis. You could think Trump fucked up bad. You could say, I'd take DeSantis 1,000 times over Trump. But to pretend that the system wasn't corrupt going against Trump. And what I'm saying is, like, well, what if DeSantis wins the primary and then wins the general and the system engages in just as much, if not more, corruption against DeSantis? Are these people all of a sudden going to be going, well, DeSantis should have handed over those documents immediately, so we can't pick him anymore. Oh, well, DeSantis, blah, blah, blah. Is that what they're going to do? No, they'll say, this is unfair targeting. And they'd probably be right. That's probably what it will be. In fact, I guarantee that's what will happen. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Wicked. Vivek doesn't have a chance because he's not going after Trump. If you want to have a chance to win the primary, then you have to be going after Trump. Vivek's clearly setting up for a position in Trump's cabinet, or even more likely, to be the heir apparent to Trump. That's what he's doing, and he's doing a good job of it. But, all right, I should be on around 8 p.m. tomorrow, or a little earlier, so check for me then, unless something crazy happens with work. Last week I tried to stream on my downtime here at work, and OBS shit the bed on me. I don't know what happened there, but that's the plan. Thank you so much, everyone. Schedule going forward is going to be as follows. Around 8 o'clock on Mondays, Tuesdays. Wednesdays taking off. Thursdays, Fridays, 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll be doing my spaces with John Burke. Trying to line up more debates and shit like that. Supposedly, at some point, I'm going to be doing this TikTok invasion stuff with the Crucible. So I'll reach out to Andrew and I'll get on that and be happy to go on and just make fun of people on TikTok and stuff like that. Maybe tomorrow I'll do a debate review. Someone suggested Social Justice Warrior or Actual Justice Warrior versus Destiny. Maybe I'll do that. Dave Smith, Laura Loomer might be a good one to review too. The only problem with the debate reviews is if it's like an hour debate, it takes me 5 hours to review it. I'm pretty wordy. So, but I haven't seen either of those debates, so maybe I'll decide on one of those. We'll see, or maybe some crazy news will break or something like that. So, yeah, but you know what's funny, Lavin? That's true, but Vivek would be smart enough to not do that. Vivek doesn't want to be the guy that usurps Trump. He knows that his path forward will be... I think he's doing, to an extent, what DeSantis should have done. DeSantis, listen... Okay, before I go, I'll talk about this. And I talked about this before. For me, DeSantis' path was to be like, hey, man, I think Trump's awesome. I think he made some mistakes. I don't give a shit if the guy insults me, if he insults my boots. I think it's fucked up if he insults my wife. But we're here because this country's in a bad place. Trump started a movement. He isn't the movement, but he started a movement, and my hat's off to him. I don't know that any other man could have done that. But he came up short in key areas, and I think I'm better in those areas. That's it. That should have been DeSantis' pitch. Instead, he surrounded himself with people. I think that he tried to instead be like, I'm going to be the establishment's pinch their nose candidate. Because if they can't have Chris Christie or they can't have Nikki Haley, they'd rather have me than Trump. So I don't want to alienate any of them. And I think even his performance at the debates, it's like he doesn't want to take a hard stance on anything. You going to give money to Ukraine? Well, some of the money we've given to Ukraine has been poorly spent. Right. So you're going to give it? You're going to attack Iran? Well, if Iran attacked some of our troops, I absolutely would defend them. Right. So you're going to attack? Yeah, that's right. Javier Millet, or however you pronounce it. That's how you handle it. Fuck you. Right. I'm not quite as aggressive as Javier, but yeah, that's exactly how I would run. I'm sick and tired of like the people surrounding Trump and surrounding DeSantis that would be like, oh, norms and blah, blah, blah. Fuck all that. Yeah, I mean, a Trump-DeSantis ticket would have been interesting, but at this point, I think there'd be too much bad blood. I think that DeSantis, I don't know that Trump, if he loses to DeSantis, would ever let it go. I think DeSantis will let it go if he loses to Trump. And that's because DeSantis is less of a petty man. But I think that much like Ted Cruz, DeSantis, after a cooling off period, would be like, absolutely, we're going to support Trump. We're going to try to get him across the finish line. And that's probably because DeSantis is a more moral, well-grounded person than Trump. But there will be those DeSantis supporters that will be like, no. I'm not going to vote for Trump. It's nonsense. Let's see if there's someone to raid. Any suggestions on that front? Oh, for God. Here we go. I haven't signed into... Here we go. Oh, we got Stardust. EOD's on. He was on here. Look, easy. After Chuck could go yell at EOD on his stream. EOD's a good guy. So. All right. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Looking forward to tomorrow's show. We'll try to do some debate review stuff. Like I said, around 8 o'clock tomorrow. Then Thursday, Friday, we'll be doing the spaces and stuff like that. So thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate each and every one of you, particularly the people that have helped me out. You know who you are. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you all soon. As always, have a good one.
Okay. On one hand, I really see what Phil is saying. Is that it's come a long way. You know, they used to be about